Welcome to Glisso English. Real life stories.
Caring for a parent who no longer remembers your name is one of the hardest challenges in life. Every day brings confusion, frustration, and heartache. You love them deeply, but the weight of responsibility can feel unbearable. In this story, you will follow a caregiver navigating exhaustion, guilt, and fleeting moments of connection, learning that asking for help and caring for yourself is just as important as caring for them. Through this story, you'll hear real conversations, practical English phrases, and emotional expressions that you can use in everyday life. Get ready to experience the highs and lows of caregiving and improve your English listening, speaking, and vocabulary along the way. I wake up before sunrise, the same way I've been waking up for the past 2 years. My body aches, my mind already heavy with a list of tasks I can't ignore. I hear the faint sound of my mother calling from the living room. "Who's there?" she asks, her voice small and unsure. "It's me, Mom," I reply, trying to keep my tone calm. "I'm here. Good morning." I can see her sitting in the armchair, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She looks at me like I'm a stranger. Her eyes squint, searching my face, trying to place me. "Do I know you?" she asks. I swallow hard. My throat feels tight. "Yes, Mom, it's me, your daughter." She nods slowly, but doesn't smile. She frowns instead, muttering, "I don't remember." And there it is, the familiar sting. That moment every morning when I realize the person I've cared for my whole life no longer recognizes me. I guide her carefully to the kitchen. "Let's get you some breakfast. Do you want oatmeal or eggs today?" I ask, as if I'm negotiating with someone else's child instead of my own mother. "Oatmeal, I think," she replies, hesitating, her voice quiet. I prepare it slowly, watching her every move. She forgets how to hold the spoon properly, and I have to remind her gently. "Here, Mom, let me show you." I take a deep breath and tell myself, patience, just patience. But inside, a storm is building. I'm tired. My back hurts. My hands are sore from cleaning, cooking, and helping her get dressed. Some mornings, I feel like I'm walking through fog, moving automatically without really living. After breakfast, she asks the same question again. "Who are you?" I sit down across from her, forcing a smile I don't feel. "I'm your daughter, remember? I'm here to help you today." Her face clouds over. "I don't remember." I want to scream, but I don't. I bite my lip and try a different approach. "It's okay, Mom. We can take it slow. Let's drink our tea first." Moments like this are exhausting. Every interaction is a test of my patience. I remind myself that she doesn't mean to forget me, that it's the disease, not her. But that doesn't make the ache any smaller. After she finishes breakfast, she wanders around the living room, sometimes stopping to touch things she doesn't recognize. I follow, gently guiding her. "Let's sit down here for a while." She sometimes resists, sometimes complies. There's no predicting her mood. By mid-morning, I already feel the weight of the day pressing down on me. I haven't even had a chance to eat breakfast myself or think about what I'll do next. And yet, I can't let my frustration show. I have to be calm, patient, loving every single second. And I wonder, quietly to myself, how long can I keep doing this? But I push that thought away. For now, it's just another morning. Another day of guiding, reminding, and holding on to fragments of the person I once knew, hoping that somewhere inside, she still recognizes me. By mid-morning, the quiet in the house is heavy. My mother moves slowly from room to room, sometimes stopping to stare at a photograph or an object, as if it might trigger a memory. She touches the frame, traces the edges with trembling fingers, and then lets out a soft sigh. I watch her, silently, feeling a mixture of love, sadness, and frustration. She doesn't recognize me today. She doesn't remember the meals I cooked for her yesterday, the shows we watched together, or the small jokes we shared. Every day, she forgets pieces of our life, and every day, I have to remind myself that this is not her fault. The guilt comes in waves. I love her deeply, yet there is a small part of me that wishes for a moment to breathe, just a little space to step away from the endless cycle of care. It's a feeling I can't say out loud, even to myself sometimes. I worry that admitting it makes me a bad child. I move quietly around the kitchen, preparing tea and arranging her pills. Each motion feels automatic, rehearsed from months of repetition. I glance at the clock and realize how fast the morning is gone. Tasks blur together, the laundry, the breakfast dishes, helping her with the blanket she keeps asking for, even though it's already around her shoulders. When she calls my name incorrectly, I pause for a moment and breathe. It's not personal. She doesn't know. "It's okay, Mom," I whisper, even though she cannot hear it clearly. "I'm here." The words feel hollow, yet necessary. Somewhere in the quiet, I remember the person she used to be, the mother who laughed at my silly mistakes, who guided me through life with warmth and patience. That memory is sharp and bright, but also fragile. It fades faster than I can hold on. I spend the rest of the morning anticipating moments that might never come. A smile, a flicker of recognition, or even a simple word spoken correctly. These little moments are treasures, rare and fleeting, yet they keep me moving forward through another day. By noon, I'm exhausted in a way that no physical activity could cause. My body is tired, yes, but my mind is heavier. I feel the tension in my shoulders, the weight in my chest, and the guilt that never leaves. I remind myself again that this is love in its most challenging form. And even though part of me dreams of escaping for just a few hours, I stay. I stay because she is still my mother, and because even in her confusion, there are glimpses of the bond we shared, enough to keep me going through another day of forgotten names. The afternoon stretches on, and the house feels heavier with each passing hour. There is no real break, no pause in the rhythm of caregiving. The laundry waits, dishes pile up, and the list of chores grows longer than my energy allows. Every task blends into the next, forming a cycle that seems impossible to escape. I guide my mother to the living room and help her sit in her favorite chair. She stares at the floor for a long moment, lost in a world I cannot reach. I brush a stray strand of hair from her face and silently remind myself to breathe. Even small gestures feel monumental now. Preparing her meals takes longer than it should. She forgets if she has eaten or refuses food for reasons I cannot understand. I repeat instructions quietly, patiently, but the repetition weighs heavily. I find myself counting the minutes until I can pause, though I know the pause may never come. Cleaning is constant. Every spill, every misplaced object demands attention. The house is never finished, and the sense of accomplishment is fleeting. Sometimes I catch myself standing still, staring at a corner or a counter, overwhelmed by the relentless nature of these tasks. The exhaustion isn't just physical, it presses down on my mind, leaving me irritable and anxious. I remind myself that these chores are acts of love, but the reminder does not ease the fatigue. My body aches in ways I never expected. My back is stiff, my hands raw, and my energy is gone by mid-afternoon. And yet, I must keep moving. I cannot leave my mother alone, not for even a minute. The guilt is constant. Even when I imagine taking a brief rest, a small break to breathe, a voice inside me condemns the thought. How can you consider leaving her now? She needs you." And still, that quiet whisper of exhaustion grows louder each day, pressing at the edges of my patience. By the time the sun begins to dip, I am drained. I sit for a moment on the edge of the sofa, watching my mother shuffle to the window, gazing out with eyes that seem to search for something she cannot name. I long to step away, even briefly, but I stay. Because despite the fatigue, despite the endless tasks, there is love here. A stubborn, unyielding love that refuses me to walk away. And so I continue, quietly enduring the endless cycle of chores, repetition, and patience, holding on even when my own strength feels dangerously thin. Evenings are the hardest. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across the rooms I've cleaned countless times, and with the fading light, the tension in the house seems to grow. My mother's moods shift like weather, calm one moment, stormy the next, and I am left trying to navigate a landscape I cannot control. She smiles sometimes, a soft curve of her lips that lights up the room for a brief second. I hold my breath, savoring it, hoping the moment will last, but it never does. Within minutes, she frowns, frustrated by something I cannot see. She mutters complaints that make no sense, accusing me of things I haven't done. I feel my chest tighten. The anger bubbles up, but I cannot let it show. I remind myself that it is not her, but the illness speaking. I swallow, forcing a calmness I don't entirely feel. My heart races, my hands tremble, and I quietly repeat, "Patience, breathe, love her." The emotional whiplash is exhausting. One moment I feel needed, important, and connected. The next, I feel rejected, invisible, even blamed. It's a constant cycle, draining the edges of my resilience. My mind swings between love and frustration, guilt and helplessness. Sometimes I watch her sit quietly, staring at nothing, lost in her own thoughts. And in those moments, I feel a twinge of sadness deeper than anything else, a sorrow for the person she once was, for the mother who guided me, and for the child she no longer sees in me. I remind myself that every day is unpredictable. There is no manual, no perfect way to navigate these shifts. Each moment requires patience, understanding, and careful attention. Even the simplest gestures, a touch on the hand, a gentle word, a guiding arm, become lifelines for both of us. By nightfall, I am drained in a way that no physical work could account for. The house is quiet, my mother asleep, and I sit in silence, my thoughts heavy with guilt, relief, and exhaustion. I long for rest, for a reprieve, for even a fleeting moment of peace. Yet, even as I feel the weight of this day, I know tomorrow will bring the same challenges, the same emotional swings. And still, I stay, because love is patient, love endures, and somehow it keeps me moving forward, even through the hardest emotional storms. Late in the afternoon, I find a rare, quiet moment. My mother sits in her chair, humming softly, lost in her own world. For the first time today, I feel a spark of freedom, a fleeting thought that feels almost forbidden. What if I just left for an hour? The thought whispers in my mind. Immediately, guilt floods in. How could I even consider leaving her alone? She needs me. She can't remember who I am some days. The thought makes my chest tighten, my throat burn. Yet, underneath the guilt, there is a small, undeniable truth. I am exhausted. For months, maybe years, I've put my needs aside. Sleep, meals, breaks, they all feel like luxuries I cannot afford. But my body is tired, and my mind even more so. The thought of stepping outside, breathing fresh air, feeling the world beyond these walls, it tempts me like a forbidden escape. I pace the living room, careful not to disturb her. I remind myself that this is natural. Any caregiver feels the pull of exhaustion, the longing for relief. Wanting a moment to rest does not make me a bad person, yet the guilt is persistent, a shadow I cannot shake. I think about asking for help, someone to stay with her for a short time, but even that feels like failure. My pride and sense of duty hold me back. I imagine the judgment. How could you leave her? She's your mother. And yet the whisper grows louder. I remind myself, even brief rest is not abandonment. Even asking for help is not weakness. Slowly, I start to see that caring for someone else does not mean erasing my own needs. By evening, I feel a strange mix of relief and lingering tension. The thought of escape has passed for now, replaced by my familiar routine of meals, medication, and guiding her to her chair. But I know this moment is important. The recognition that I cannot carry this alone, that I deserve help, is the first step towards survival. Even in guilt, there is awareness, and in awareness, there is hope. Hope that I can continue to care for her without losing myself completely. The morning light feels softer than usual today, almost like a small invitation to breathe. After another night of interrupted sleep, I realize something important. I cannot do this alone. For months, maybe years, I've been carrying every task, every decision, every responsibility on my own. I've convinced myself that asking for help would be a failure, that it would make me a weak caregiver. But exhaustion has a way of breaking down pride. Today, it breaks mine. I sit at the kitchen table with my laptop open, scrolling through resources. Adult day programs, home care services, support groups for caregivers. Each option feels like a lifeline thrown across a stormy sea. I make notes, jot down phone numbers, and pause to take deep breaths. The idea of letting someone else step in, even for a few hours, still brings guilt. But I remind myself that this is not abandonment. Caring for my mother doesn't mean I have to erase myself. In fact, asking for help may make me a better caregiver, stronger, calmer, more patient. I call a local caregiver support line. A calm voice greets me, patient and understanding. I explain my situation, my exhaustion, my fears. The person listens without judgment and offers practical solutions, part-time home care, community programs, even virtual support groups for family caregivers. For the first time in a long while, I feel a spark of relief. It is not shame to ask for help. It is not weakness. It is survival. I take a moment to sit quietly, imagining a day where someone else could take over, even briefly. A walk outside, a cup of coffee in peace, a moment to breathe. The thought feels luxurious, almost foreign, but it also feels necessary. By afternoon, I start arranging a schedule. Small steps, a caregiver coming twice a week, a support group meeting, a brief break to step outside. It is not a complete solution, but it is the first step toward balance. And in that small recognition, I realize something profound. Love does not mean suffering in silence. Love allows for support, for boundaries, for humanity. By seeking help, I am not failing my mother. I am finding a way to continue caring without losing myself in the process. For the first time in weeks, I feel a flicker of hope. Hope that the endless exhaustion can be shared, and hope that I can survive this journey without surrendering to it entirely. Some days, despite the exhaustion, there are small flashes of light, moments that remind me why I continue. Today, one of those moments comes unexpectedly. I'm helping my mother organize a photo album she hasn't looked at in months. She pauses on a picture of herself as a young woman, laughing with family members I barely remember. For a second, her eyes brighten, and a faint smile crosses her lips. "I remember this," she says softly, her voice almost fragile. It is not perfect recognition, but it is enough to make my chest ache in relief. I sit beside her, gently guiding her hand over the photo. Yes, that was a long time ago. Look how happy you are." She nods, still gazing at the picture. For a few precious minutes, she is present with me, with our shared past, and not lost in confusion. These moments are rare, fragile, but they shine brighter than any frustration or exhaustion I feel. Later, while folding laundry together, she hums a tune from her youth. I can feel the joy in her small movements, the way she carefully matches socks, the way she hums without hesitation. It's nothing grand, but in these simple acts, she is herself, and I am reminded that she is still in there somewhere, behind the fog of memory loss. These moments give me strength. They are small rewards for enduring long, exhausting days. A smile, a laugh, a fleeting word of recognition, these are treasures, and I hold them close, storing them in my heart for the days when patience feels impossible. Even in her confusion, even when names are forgotten and moods swing unpredictably, I realize that love is still present. It does not always manifest in recognition or gratitude, but it is there, in the touch of a hand, a shared smile, the quiet presence of one person caring for another. I finish my tasks today with a lighter heart than usual. The house is still messy, the chores are still unfinished, and tomorrow will bring the same challenges. But for now, these small moments of connection remind me why I stay, why I care, and why, despite everything, I will continue. Even with small moments of connection, guilt never fully disappears. I feel it in every action, every decision, every thought. The simple act of taking a short break can trigger waves of self-recrimination. How could I leave her alone, even for a few minutes? I ask myself repeatedly. Yet today, I notice something different. The guilt is still there, yes, but it no longer has the same power. I realize that acknowledging my own needs does not make me a bad caregiver. It makes me human. It makes me stronger. I spend a quiet moment in the living room, my mother resting in her chair, her breathing slow and even. I close my eyes and repeat a quiet affirmation to myself. I am doing my best. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to ask for help. The words feel foreign at first, but slowly they begin to take root. I remember the support I arranged last week, a caregiver coming for a few hours, a support group online. I allowed someone else to step in, and it was not a betrayal. It was a lifeline. It reminded me that love does not mean suffering in silence. Love allows for support, for boundaries, and for self-compassion. The guilt still whispers occasionally, especially when my mother calls my name incorrectly or becomes frustrated with me. But now I respond differently. I remind myself that I am not failing her. I am giving her care, patience, and love, and I am giving myself permission to survive alongside her. By the end of the day, I feel a small sense of balance returning. The exhaustion is still there. The responsibilities still weigh heavily, but the constant pressure of guilt eases. I have learned something essential. I cannot pour from an empty cup. Caring for myself is not selfish, it is necessary. Even as I tuck my mother into bed, I allow myself a brief moment to breathe, to stretch, to recognize that I am doing enough, that I am enough. And in that quiet acknowledgement, I realize something powerful. The battle with guilt is not about erasing it completely. It is about learning to live alongside it with patience, love, and self-compassion. Some days are good, and some days are unbearable. I have learned that there is no perfect way to care for someone who is losing their memory. No checklist, no routine, no magic words can make every day smooth or predictable. Today, as I guide my mother through her morning routine, I remind myself that imperfection is not failure. She spills her tea, I drop a dish, she forgets my name again. And yet, Despite all these mistakes, love persists. It exists in every touch, every glance, every quiet moment we share. I notice that my own expectations have shifted. I no longer demand perfection from myself. I no longer expect flawless patience every second of every day. I allow room for frustration, for tears, for moments when I need to step away even briefly. These allowances do not make me weak, they make me human. There is strength in acceptance. There is freedom in releasing the impossible standard of perfection. I can still love her, care for her, and be present even when the day is messy and my energy is spent. I take a few deep breaths, appreciating the small victories. A smile, a laugh, a moment when she recognizes me for just a second. I hold these moments close, storing them like treasures against the days when patience feels impossible. By evening, I feel a quiet sense of accomplishment, not because everything went perfectly, but because I survived another day. I remained patient, I remained loving, and I allowed myself grace when things went wrong. Accepting imperfection does not erase the challenges, but it softens them. It gives me space to breathe, to rest, and to continue caring without losing myself. And in that acceptance, I find resilience, a steady, enduring strength I never realized I had until I needed it most. It happens quietly, as it always does. A single morning, a single moment, and I reach the edge. I feel the exhaustion, the frustration, and the years of accumulated stress crashing over me all at once. My mother sits in her chair, confused and fidgeting, asking the same question I have answered a dozen times today. Something inside me snaps. I sit down heavily, resting my head in my hands. I cry, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Tears slide down my cheeks as the weight of it all presses into my chest. I'm tired, so tired. I'm scared. I'm overwhelmed. And in that breaking moment, something shifts. Admitting my limits, acknowledging my exhaustion, allows me to breathe for the first time in months. I whisper softly, mostly to myself, I need help. I need support. It is not weakness. It is honesty. It is survival. I pick up the phone and call a caregiver I researched weeks ago. I schedule a visit for tomorrow. I open the calendar for a support group meeting. I realize that asking for help is not betrayal. It is part of loving both my mother and myself. Later, I sit beside her as she dozes, her hand in mine. I feel the familiar ache of love, but it is mixed with something new, clarity. I do not have to carry this alone. I do not have to exhaust myself into emptiness. I can care for her and care for myself at the same time. For the first time in a long while, hope returns. It is small and fragile, but it is enough. I know there will be more hard days ahead, days of frustration, sadness, and confusion, but now I have tools, support, and self-compassion to face them. I breathe in the quiet of the room, feeling my heart steady. Love persists, even in confusion. Strength persists, even in exhaustion. And I persist, not as a perfect caregiver, but as a human being who loves deeply, survives hardships, and finds renewal even in the most difficult moments. Caring for someone who no longer remembers you is one of life's greatest challenges. It tests your patience, your strength, and your heart in ways you never imagined. But through love, small moments of connection, and learning to ask for help, it is possible to survive and even find hope. Remember, being a caregiver does not mean erasing your own needs. Taking a break, seeking support, and showing yourself compassion are not signs of weakness, they are signs of strength. If you are a caregiver, know that you are not alone. Every day, millions of people face these challenges quietly, and it is okay to reach out, to breathe, and to take care of yourself as you take care of others. Love endures, even in confusion. Strength grows, even in exhaustion. and hope can return, even in the darkest moments. Thank you for listening to this story. May it remind you to be patient, compassionate, and gentle with both yourself and those you care for.